I'm all about shouting it from the rooftop at this point. I'm adopted, and there is no shame
Yes,
in that. This is the life that I was predestined to have. This is the
absolutely.
life that I live. And when we can shine the light on shame,
Yeah.
it can change a child's life.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kaya with Notes by Kaya, and I am joined again today with my friend Shanta Hyche of Trauma Transformation Global Ministries and Trauma Transformation Adoptee Advocate.
Very good. Yes. Yes.
So we both have a heart for adoptive and foster families. And so I thought this was perfect to kind of talk about this together a little bit because Shantae is like deep in the work with that stuff, with a podcast, website, services, all of that. And I am also growing my services. So by the time this video goes up, I most likely will have announced that we are adding more family services into Notes by Kaya. So we're just going to kind of talk about some of the things that we've noticed with um, foster and adoptive families working in the field as well as our own personal lives. And so we're going to jump right in. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, absolutely. So, just a few things that I have been thinking about, especially as I've been getting more clients that have already been adopted, are in foster care right now, and things like that, that I think are important. And I think one major thing that families should understand, kids often lack control of their situations. They don't get a lot of say in what happens to them or how they're moved around. But particularly in adoptive and foster families, um, they don't get control from the very beginning of how they got into foster care or
Right.
even what parents they got.
Right.
So
Right.
being taken away from their parents, what foster homes they go to, how many times they move, um, what kind of houses they grow up in, period. So
Mhm.
let's start there and talk about that a little bit and what you have seen with that.
I think what I've seen with that, and even from personal experiences, is that lack of control can look very different from one child to the next. And especially depends on if the child shows the behaviors outward or if it happens inward.
Mm,
So things like cutting, you know, suicidal ideations, things like that manifest for those that are like me and internalize internally. So I
mhm.
was never the bad kid, and I'm so air quoting that because I
Yeah,
hate that terminology,
me
but
too.
I was never labeled as that kid. I was the quiet kid. You know, I never really stood up, never really had a voice. So my behaviors often look different from some of the children that I work with today who express it outwardly.
Mm,
And it may be flipping the desk at school. It may be cussing someone out. But at the core of that, at
right.
the core of both opposite ends of those behaviors is a very similar need. And it's a need to try to gain or feel some level of control in our lives because every other aspect of our lives, we lack it. And so as children, sometimes that need underneath that behavior could be just an attempt to gain control of a life that I have no control over right now.
Right.
People that are supposed to be taking care of me are failing,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. I think that for me, I internalized things, but eventually I broke and it was external.
External,
Um,
yeah.
And so a lot of times it wouldn't necessarily come out like I wasn't throwing desk, I wasn't doing that kind of thing. It was my mouth. And I tell
No.
people like, really, that that's the only thing that I really got in trouble for was it was considered talking back or being
Mhm.
respectful when really I was just trying to voice my opinion and it wasn't being heard. And so
Right.
then like, if I feel like you're not hearing me, I'm talking up. My volume is raised, all of that. And to you, you feel like, oh, no child should be talking to me like that. But
Right.
it's
Because
like,
that's
yeah,
disrespectful, right? Yeah.
exactly. But if
Mhm.
you would listen and show me that you heard me, that's a completely different thing. So
Which is
I
the
think
ultimate form of respect that we so often forget. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And so I
Yeah.
think specifically when you have a foster child, when you adopt a child, think about all of the things that have happened in their lives that have been controlled by someone else.
Yes.
So even if it was that their parent decided to put them up for adoption at birth,
Mhm.
um, they didn't choose that. They
Right.
didn't get a choice in which family they wanted to be with. And then even the people who adopted them, they didn't get a choice on who adopted them.
And so I'm just really excited for this opportunity of what all you're doing and what we're doing over here on this end with foster care and adoptees and orphans even to really make a difference in these kids' lives because as one, I recognize what it's like growing up with a overwhelming sense of rejection, an overwhelming sense of abandonment, and holding on to the ugliest of relationships because I believed in in down in my spirit that nobody else was going to want me. And so I found myself hanging on to things to avoid rejection and to avoid abandonment, suffering identity issues and not really understanding who I am and where I fit into this world. And so when we can go in and exact to make a change in this population of children, then we can create bring up a generation of children who know who they are, that don't have to suffer, from what their parents suffered from with addictions and honestly my biggest enemy was in my head.
Mm,
And it was because I believed those things about me, that I was unwanted, that I was unlovable, that I would never be enough.
yeah,
And now at 38, when I was 38 is when I finally started to recognize that despite not being raised by my biological mother, I am lovable
yeah,
and I am wanted. I do have value and I am enough the way that I am right now. So going in and getting this just drilled into children
yeah.
is really can make a difference in a lot of our future for the next generation to come.
So what do you think, with your personal experience, would have been some key things would have helped you as far as having a better image of yourself and feeling more wanted?
I think that for starters, not hiding the adoption because I didn't find out until I was 16. And even then, they really just didn't have the capacity to talk to me about it. And the face of adoption is changing significantly, has changed significantly from then to where there are more open adoptions. It is not as secretive and shameful as it once was. And
Yeah,
so I am thankful for those changes, but there's still a long ways to go in that front. So I think that would have been step one is that should have had the opportunity to know I was adopted from the jump,
yeah,
from the moment that I could understand what that was. And I think, secondly, is that my parents needed a support system of how to parent me
yeah,
because parenting an adopted child, there are some differences than with your
yeah,
biological children. And I think that adopted parents go into this, I'm going to love you the same way I love my own children, but that's a different type of love. That baby grew in you for 9 months. And this one didn't. And this one doesn't come with a clean slate. You know
right,
what I'm saying? And so there are differences there. So I think giving adopted parents that support, because the way it's kind of set up now is like, it's whoo, all right, you're adopted. Go on, live your merry life. And that's it for the adopted kid and the family. But
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be continued support, continued mental health check ins, continued everything throughout the course of that adopted child's life because we process things differently as we age.
Yes.
So when we can't resolve a process, we'll continue to reprocess that bad boy,
Yeah.
as we get older. And I think that that is why therapy is so important in these situations. And I think that that's the third part is not only support, but therapeutic support as well. But also a community. I went to school where I didn't really know anyone else adopted.
Right.
When we feel isolated is when we lose foothold over whatever it is getting to us. So
Mhm.
when we're in a community of people that experience the same
Yeah.
similar things as us, we're able to understand we're not alone and we have a group there that we can share these things with and feel safe,
Yeah.
and I lacked that. And so that would probably be the next thing.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. And I think that that's part of why the work that you're doing, and I'm glad to be able to join you in that work, with educating. That
Yeah.
education part is huge.
I'm all about shouting it from the rooftop at this point. I'm adopted, and there is no shame
Yes,
in that. This is the life that I was predestined to have. This is the
absolutely.
life that I live. And when we can shine the light on shame,
Yeah,
it can change a child's life. So that community we're looking at creating for children are children that are not going to feel some type of way because they're not being raised or living with biological parents.
yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm any less than.
There's so much to learn. All of these children deserve love and care.
Yes, and
It
care.
does take a lot of patience, and I'm no way, shape, or form here to say that adoption and foster care is for everyone, because it's not.
Right,
Just like not every career field is for everyone. If you're not
right.
ready, do
Yeah.
not. Because
Yeah, I wasn't made to be a nurse, so you don't
right,
want me working on your
exactly.
sick family member. You don't, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it just, but it's okay. And you can
But
support.
there's still other ways that you can support. There's
Absolutely.
still other ways that you can come in and support. And if you need a list, my information will be on here.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
excited about everything that you're doing, and I think that it is huge for our community. It is, definitely that transformation part is not just about the one individual that's in services. I think it's
Mm-mm.
transforming so much beyond that. Thank everybody for watching. I appreciate you. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And leave us some comments if you have questions or anything like that. Both of our links for services and all of that will be down below. As you know, both of us are open to speaking at events for larger groups and then working on more individual levels. So stay tuned for more on what we both have to come. Be sure to subscribe to Trauma Transformation, the podcast, so that you're able to hear that first episode when it launches. I'm so excited. I can't wait. And we will talk to you soon on the next one. Bye.